Some major trade buzz coming in on today's 76ers now from ESPN's Jonathan Givony, NBA Draft expert, who's reporting that the Sixers could trade Paul George and the number 3 overall pick in a blockbuster trade package for either Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen. Jonathan Givony is very tapped in when it comes to the NBA Draft, so when he hears some things, I tend to give that some value. Now, before we get into both Lauri Markkanen and Kevin Durant and more of what Givony had to say, we're on the race to 25,000 subscribers here on the channel between us and the Miami Heat Report. Now, last time we did this, we were about 1,000 subs behind. Since then, we've had a good week here on the channel. Shout out to all you guys. We're now only about 700 subs behind, so we're making up some ground, but we gotta keep it pushing. If you're looking for somewhere to get Sixers news all offseason long, live for the NBA Draft, live for free agency, be sure to hit that sub button. All right, so here is what Givony had to say about both KD and Lauri Markkanen. Some teams expect the Sixers to be active in trade conversations with names such as Kevin Durant, Phoenix, and Lauri Markkanen, Utah, as potential targets and packages that could include Paul George and the number 3 pick. Sixers president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, has made a career of being active and aggressive on the trade front, but historically, it is rare to see a top 3 pick being traded. Now, there's a lot to break down when talking about potentially moving this number 3 overall pick, and especially for players like Lauri Markkanen and Kevin Durant, and we'll get into each of them in further detail. But when it comes to trading away Paul George and number 3, right, of course, trading away Paul George at this point, you have to consider that a win with the way his contract is structured. He's under contract until 2027, 2028. He'll be 37 years old, making $56 million. At this point in time, even if you believe Paul George can maybe bounce back heading into next season, that's just a lot of money to be committing to him at that point. And you know the Sixers do not want to hold on to that. Now, that being said, when you think about trading him away with that 3rd overall pick, is Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen enough to, in that return, to say, okay, you know what, we'll part ways with that 3rd overall pick? Will these guys really change our situation? Will it be enough for us to say we're willing to part ways with a potential franchise level player, depending on what you think of some of these guys at the top of the draft, in order to get either KD or Markkanen? Well, let's start with Kevin Durant, because I do still believe Kevin Durant, even though he's getting older and he's aging and these Suns teams haven't been very good, is still an elite player. Now, you look at the last 4 seasons, his time with Brooklyn and then Phoenix, 26 points, 50, 40, not 90 anymore from the free throw line, but still in that 80s range. Like, man, this guy still gets it done scoring the basketball in every single way. He's still an elite player in this league. I know a lot of people are lower on Kevin Durant over the past couple of years as he's been injured here and there, although relatively healthy for the most part. But the Suns haven't seen any playoff success. The teams have been very, very disappointing. And a lot of people just don't like Kevin Durant really in general. But when you look at kind of the way the Suns team has been constructed, right? And when they've been good, when they haven't been good, like Kevin Durant has not been the issue there. The issue has been their team construction. What I'm showing you right now, efficiency differential. This is the difference in points scored per 100 possessions when the player is on the floor versus when the player is off the floor. So Kevin Durant, a plus 5.6 differential means when he's on the floor, the Suns are almost 6 points better per 100 possessions than when he's off. Devin Booker is only a plus 0.6. And the real problem here with the Phoenix Suns was Bradley Beal at a minus 7.1. So Kevin Durant was never the issue in Phoenix. When he was healthy, he was playing very, very well, despite him getting up there in age. So you think about what this team would look like, right? It's pretty straightforward. If you do just swap Paul George and number 3 for Kevin Durant, you know, him entering the last year of his deal and his age, the Suns might just say, you know what, give us that number 3 pick. We'll take on Paul George's contract. We can try to get ahead of ourselves in a little bit of a retool here and a rebuild, maybe trade Bradley Beal, keep Devin Booker. Then you'd be rocking with Maxey, Grimes, Oubre, KD, and Joel Embiid. On paper, I mean, just looking at those 5 faces there, that looks pretty scary if I'm the opposing teams. Now, of course, Kevin Durant is entering his age 37 season, right? There's still a lot of drawbacks and, other things you got to talk about with Kevin Durant. One being his age and his injury history. But the biggest one, I think, is that he's entering the final year of his contract, right? 2025-26, he'll make just under $55 million. And after that, he's a free agent. So there's really no guarantee that if you trade for Kevin Durant, even if he plays well, that he'll return to the 76ers next season. So the question you have to ask yourself, and the question Daryl Morey will have to ask himself and this 76ers front office, is potentially one season of Kevin Durant worth giving up pick number 3. Now, I know you also get off the Paul George contract, so you have to consider that as a plus as well. But that's a huge risk to take, saying we're going to go all in on this one season, put all our chips in this bag, and hope that getting Kevin Durant, we can stay healthy and win this championship, and then convince him to return in the future seasons when he'll continue to age, as he'll already be 37 next season. Now, to a player who's a little bit younger, and the conversation is a little bit different with Lauri Markkanen. Now, Lauri Markkanen, ever since he arrived in Utah, has been a stud, a revelation. He's been an all-star ever since leaving Chicago, then 1 year in Cleveland. You can see his first 2 years in Utah were absolutely tremendous. Now, this past season with the Jazz, after he got that mega extension last offseason, definitely his worst year in Utah of the 3 by far. Not to say he was a terrible player by any means. I'm still very high on Lauri Markkanen. I think he's a very good player, but he did get paid quite a significant bag, and he just didn't play all that well when he was healthy. And once again, he wasn't super healthy. Now, the Utah Jazz, they kind of just hold him out a lot of times, especially at the end of the year as they enter their tank situation. But still, something to be a little bit concerned about. As I mentioned, he did get paid last offseason, and that's why he was not eligible to be traded during the year. But once we get into the offseason, he is eligible to be moved by Utah. And you can see it's a big contract that Utah gave him, and deservedly so. Lauri had been very good for them for a couple years in a row at that point. Takes him up through 2028, 2029, when he'll be 31 years old in the last year of the deal. Look, I know the numbers look huge, but it's just the way the NBA is right now. If you're a very good player, you're going to get paid. Whatever the max is, you can get paid. There's really not a whole lot of in-between at that point, so that's kind of the going rate for an all-star level player. But, man, when I think about Lauri Markkanen, I do like him a lot as a player, and I think he could be helpful to winning basketball. We haven't really seen that since he's been in Utah, of course, because they've been so bad. But I'm not just giving up Paul George at number 3 for Lauri Markkanen. I'm sorry. Maybe last year when he was coming off 2 great years, but based off the decline he showed this year, and he does have his limitations as a player despite being an all-star, there's no way I'm just doing Paul George and 3 for Lauri Markkanen. So I think maybe you could make another deal to entice Utah involving some more picks like the one I cooked up here, which is the Sixers receiving Lauri Markkanen, and they also get pick 21 from the Jazz. The Jazz have, I think, 4, maybe 3 first-round picks, so you get number 21 from them. You give them 3, and Paul George still, so they keep number 5. So Utah still has pick number 5. You give them pick number 3. That's 2 prime picks in the top 5 of this draft that they can use to kind of accelerate this rebuild that they're on. And then to sweeten the pie a little bit, throw in 2 future second-round picks, 1 in 2027 from either Golden State or Phoenix, and then 1 in 2028 from the Detroit Pistons. Now, I love Lauri Markkanen's fit in Philly. I love the way his skill set complements all these other players with Embiid and with Tyrese Maxey. I mean, we've talked about Lauri Markkanen in a trade for him for a while now here on the show. It seems like for multiple years at this point. But the question you have to ask yourselves is is that worth giving up a potential franchise level guy? The lineup does look good, man. There's no doubt about it. The lineup does look good. With Maxey, Grimes, Oubre, Lauri sliding right in there at the 4 where he can score from all 3 levels. He can handle the ball. He can spot up. He can catch and shoot. He's not a great passer, not a great defender either, but not awful in those regards. And he has some of that 4-5 flexibility as well. I think could even play the 3 a little bit. So before we continue here on the show, I just want to see where your head's at right now. If you had to pick either Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen to trade for, there's no doubt in my mind Kevin Durant's a better player, but factoring in contract situation and age and injury history, if you had to pick one, who would you rather trade for? Give me a KD for Kevin Durant or an LM for Lauri Markkanen. Now, really what this all comes down to, for Daryl Morey, if he's really on the phones making these deals and he has to decide on potentially pulling the trigger on a trade with Paul George and pick number 3, first, you have to look at the prospects that are available, assuming Flagg and Dylan Harper are gone. How much is Morey value those options at number 3 overall? Then, if you don't really value those guys after the top two. Do you believe that Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen make you a championship contender? In my opinion, I don't think so. And look, obviously Kevin Durant, as I mentioned, is elite. I really like Lauri Markkanen as a player, but you're still so dependent on Joel Embiid being healthy and then still filling out the rest of this roster. I've said this really all offseason. Unless I'm getting Giannis in a potential trade, I am keeping the number 3 overall pick. I think this team should be prioritizing keeping their long-term window and their long-term future open. And I think they do that by using the pick on a young player who can potentially develop into a franchise guy. If you're the Sixers, you don't plan to be picking this high for the foreseeable future. I mean, since you got your pick this year, your pick next year is only top 4 protected, right? And then you still have future first after that to the Brooklyn Nets. So there's probably not going to be a situation where you're picking number 3 overall in the draft again. You need to use this opportunity to either trade for a Giannis, which I don't see happening, or landing a franchise player. So I'm passing on these potential Paul George and number 3 for Kevin Durant or Lauri Markkanen trades. Even though you do get off Paul George, I get it. It's very valuable to get off that deal, but not valuable enough to possibly punt on your future. Now, coming up next, some important draft intel from Givony, who dived into some more of what the Sixers' plans might be at number 3, which gives us some insight into where Morey's head might be at when it does come to a potential trade. But before we get there, big alert on this Fanatics item. This 76ers polo is on clearance. It's over 50% off. I've talked about it on the show before, shown you guys this product before. It went down to 60 at one point, then it went down to the 50s. Now it's down to $42, but it's on clearance, so it's not going to last forever. There are all sizes available at this time. So if you go to chatsports.com/76polo, you can get this item for over 50% off. You can wear it absolutely anywhere you want. Again, that's chatsports.com/76polo. Go get the polo before it is too late. All right, here's the other intel that Givony dove into on the Sixers draft in his recent mock draft. The Sixers are unsurprisingly signaling that they are looking at a wide group of prospects consisting of Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Kaman Malawach, and Kon Knuppel. Ace Bailey, widely considered this draft's 3rd most talented prospect, is a natural fit here as he could seamlessly slide into the Sixers lineup at the 2, the 3, or the 4, operating alongside any of their current players. So, just a quick recap, according to Givony, it's these 5 guys that the Sixers are considering. Obviously, if Flagg or Dylan Harper fell, I think they would take them. So, got Ace Bailey. You know my thoughts on Ace Bailey. I think if they stick at 3, he should be the pick. But VJ Edgecombe is a very popular prospect as well among Sixers fans, and I wouldn't be mad if they took him at number 4. I just think Ace Bailey has a higher ceiling, and when you're drafting at number 3, you got to shoot for the stars. Trey Johnson, Kamal Malawach, Kon Knuppel, I don't think any of them would realistically be the pick at number 3. Look, we know Daryl Morey's not going to show his hand. They're going to keep their options open to the public. And as far as what we know and what a lot of insiders know, they're not going to tip their hand because they want to keep the value of this pick high. They don't want anybody to know what they're going to do, because if other teams know what they're going to do, then it becomes harder for the Sixers to possibly trade the pick if teams know that they don't like the options at number 3, which Givony talked about a little bit as well, specifically on Ace Bailey. The feedback coming out of Chicago suggests Bailey is somewhat polarizing in internal front office conversations because of questions about his feel for the game and unpolished team interviews, which one NBA general manager compared to Anthony Edwards during the pre-draft process. Now, of course, Anthony Edwards ended up going number 1 overall regardless. Bailey hasn't come off as a buttoned up as some of his lottery peers, but drew strong marks from a handful of executives who appreciated his candor and willingness to display his big personality. And this is where I could kind of see Daryl Morey / Nick Nurse not falling in love with Ace Bailey, especially for Daryl Morey. He's a huge analytical guy. We know that. Ace Bailey's analytics are not good. He's more of a, take a look at his game, look what he does on tape, and you can see the potential. But a lot of the stats, a lot of the analytics do not like Ace Bailey. So if Morey doesn't like Ace Bailey's analytics and they don't like him personally as a prospect, the type of person that he is off and on the floor, there's a world where they don't like their options at number 3. Now, I will say, I don't think it's inherently a bad thing that Ace Bailey kind of has these, I guess you can call them character concerns. I think he's just really confident in his abilities, similar to how Anthony Edwards was coming out, right? He's going to tell you that he's good, and he's not going to regret it, right? He's not going to feel bad about it. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing right now for Ace Bailey to be that way. Now, will some teams take that in the wrong light? Sure, it's a possibility. Now, Morey and Nurse have said they like pick number 3. They've been on record. They've said to the media that we like the options available at number 3. We like the different guys that we could potentially pick at this 3rd spot. But again, I think at some point this can kind of just be them talking it up so that if somebody does want to come up and trade for the pick, they can then increase the value of the pick instead of being like, yeah, you know what, man, these options at 3, they kind of suck. Someone come take this pick off of us, right? They would never, ever do that. So I do think trading the pick remains a very high possibility, although, again, I would keep it. But predict it for me. This is not what you would do. This is what you think the 76ers will do come draft night. Will Daryl Morey and the Sixers keep or trade pick number 3 overall? Give me a K for keep. Give me a T for trade down in the comments section. Before we up on out of here, if you want to give me a follow over on X at just Jake Chipper. No underscore there. No underscore, just Jake Chipper. Always tweeting, talking about the Sixers. Whenever we post a new video, I post it on there, as well as a lot of short form content as well that goes up over on my social media. I would love to get to, know some of you guys more and just talk ball, talk Sixers as this offseason gets underway. So give me a follow. Be sure to subscribe.